Hi ninjas and welcome back to my channel. Today we're making a chocolate torte. Sounds fancy, but basically it's a gluten-free chocolate cake. We replace the flour for the almond flour, and almond flour can also be almond meal. It's basically almonds that have been ground up into a powdered form. Once this is baked, it forms a beautiful crust on the top as it cools down. You cut it up and you serve it with some whipped cream, some vanilla ice cream, and it's got a beautiful texture of a cross between a cake and a mousse. It's dark and indulgent and super delicious. So let's get started. So we start by adding our butter and chocolate in a double boiler or a bain-marie, which is basically you've got a pot of water inside and you've got a heat-proof bowl on top. The point of adding this into a bain-marie is because you want it to heat gently over a very low heat. So while this is melting down, I'm gonna beat my eggs. Before I beat the eggs, I want to give you a very simple equation to remember this recipe. You need 150 grams of butter, 150 grams of chocolate, 150 grams of almond flour, and 150 grams of sugar. That's basically the recipe with 4 eggs. That's all you need. I add a bit of cocoa to make it a bit more intense, but that's it. The recipe is very simple to make. I'm using an electric hand beater, but you could use a whisk. It would just take a little longer to beat the eggs up until it's fluffy and light. So once it has gotten a bit frothy, as you can see, we're gonna add our sugar in 3 parts. Just eyeball it. So I'm now adding my 3rd batch of sugar, and I want to beat this until all the sugar has completely melted and dissolved into the eggs. So once the chocolate has melted completely with the butter, and you can see it's become a really nice glossy consistency, we take it off the heat and we let this cool down before we add it into our eggs. So you can see that the eggs have almost tripled in volume, and when you lift the beater up, it falls on itself in a lovely ribbon consistency, where if you create the figure number 8, it kind of holds its shape, as you can see. That's what we call ribbon consistency stage. So at this stage, I'm going to leave my eggs to one side and I'm going to get on with my chocolate mixture. So I've got my chocolate and butter mixture, which has cooled down now. You can see that it's silky smooth. And at this stage, while it's a little warm, it's not entirely cold, I'm going to add my almond flour. So I'm going to add most of my cocoa powder and leave about a teaspoon behind to coat my tin later. And basically, you just want to stir this around until you have absolutely no lumps. So I'm adding 30 ml of brandy. You could add vanilla, you could add any liqueur you like, absolutely fine. I'm also going to do a nice pinch of salt because, well, salt and chocolate are really good. And a little grating of nutmeg. And we want to stir this until it's completely combined and smooth. So I want to add a little bit of my beaten egg into the chocolate mixture just to loosen it up, because I don't want the chocolate to completely break down my eggs. All the air that's been created in this batter is what's going to give it that lovely mousse-like texture. At this stage, you want to beat the egg into the chocolate mixture quite vigorously. It doesn't matter because you're just loosening it up. Add all my chocolate mixture into the beaten eggs. It's the eggs that's going to give it the rise. So you have to be really gentle when you do this. So you want to fold both the mixtures together. As you can see, I'm moving the bowl and I'm just cutting through the bottom and bringing it to the top. Be gentle, it'll take time, but it is completely worth it. You don't want to overmix this batter too much because you don't want to release any of that air you've added into the eggs. Once you've got a uniform chocolate consistency where everything is combined, you want to stop mixing because we now need to get our tin prepped. So I'm using a spring foam tin, basically the bottom. Start by lining it with some baking spray. I want to add that teaspoon of cocoa that I had left over, and I just want to sprinkle it all across the tin. Get it coated around the sides as well. So I do want to add a piece of baking paper at the bottom again, just to be sure that it doesn't stick. So I'm gonna get a piece of baking paper like so. Fold it in half, fold that half in half, fold this half in half, and one more. So once we've reached something that looks like this, we just fold it down and we eyeball. So we essentially want this tip to be at the center of the tin, and approximately this is where that is. We cut around it, and if I did this right, we should have a round that fits into the tin snugly. So now I want to just pour all this chocolate batter into the tin. Ooh, yes. Bake this at 180 degrees for 28 to 30 minutes. I do not want it to be cooked all the way, so when you poke a knife or a toothpick into the center, it will come out with a little bit of moist crumbs, and that's absolutely fine because as it cools down, it's going to firm up. So I'm going to whip up my cream by hand, and the trick to getting stabilized whipped cream is to start really slow. You want to create small air bubbles and then start increasing your speed. This is the texture I'm looking for. So this has cooled down completely and it looks so good, it smells so good. But I just want to take my knife and run it around the edges once before I open it out. So all I'm doing is getting the knife and just running it around the edges. And because we lined it, it shouldn't actually be stuck. This is just helping it release. Okay, let's eat. If only you could smell how amazing this is. There's a lovely crust on the top, and the softness of the cake on the inside is just it just melts away, and the little salt on the top just balances it out completely. This has to be one of my favorite chocolate desserts of all time. This chocolate torte is unlike any other, and if you make this recipe, please make sure to tag me so I can see it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Let me know what you'd like to make as well going forward. What are you craving lately? And I'm happy to make that in my kitchen. Well, thank you so much for tuning in, ninjas. I hope you make this. Until next time, positive ninja vibes.